The movie begins with Henry Copper, a British author who has recently found success with his first novel. Henry holds a reading of his new book. However, there's barely anyone that listens to him. After that, we see a new woman reading, and shortly Henry shows her his new book called The Sensible Heart. After this woman learns that this book is about love, she suggests that it might be a bit saucy. However, Henry is irritated by such suggestions, and says not every book about love should be about sex. The woman also asks about how book sales are going. Jill, a bookstore employee, joins the conversation and says for the past 6 months the book has only sold 2 copies, with Henry buying one. Henry clearly shows that he's embarrassed, and the woman is disappointed in his success. After the woman leaves, Jill suggests that Henry finds a real job instead of writing. However, Henry receives a new message from his publisher Jen, and gets excited as it could mean a new opportunity for him. The next day, we see Henry come to his publisher's office and meet Jen. At first he's a bit shy, since Jen is really busy working and barely pays attention to him. Henry tries to clear the air, and jokes about the many monitors on Jen's desks. She looks like an air traffic controller rather than a publisher. However, Jen again ignores him. After a short awkward silence, Jen says that Henry's new book, The Sensible Heart, has become a bestseller in Mexico, and was translated into Spanish by a local publisher. The name of the translator is Rodriguez, and we see him shortly as he quotes from a book while his daughter is clearing the house. Back at the publisher's office, Jen says that people in Mexico know Henry's book, but not Henry himself. Therefore, she actively suggests that he needs to build up his online social media presence. Henry looks confused, as he's never used social media before. Also, Jen says that Henry will need to take a 3-city tour in Mexico. On the other side of the world, Maria is a book editor at a publishing house in Mexico. She is passionate about her job, and is known for her keen eye for spotting talent. Maria has a complicated love life, and is currently in a tumultuous relationship with her boyfriend Antonio. We're seeing as Maria is getting ready to leave for work, and is annoyed because Antonio promised to take care of Diego, their son, but now he's running late. After he finally shows up, Maria's father Max angrily remarks that he's late. However, Antonio just laughs it off and gives a gift to Diego. Diego is happy to see his father, and really cheerful about the gift. Maria is about to leave, however Antonio says he can't help her with Diego today, as a new job came up and it's really important to him. Maria is desperate, because she needs to go to work, so left with no other choice, she takes them both with her. Henry arrives in Mexico, and sees that his book is so popular that it even has a banner at the airport. Since he joined social media, he gets a lot of notifications and messages from it. He is still confused about how to use it. Henry leaves the airport and sees Maria with Diego and Max. Their first meeting is rather awkward. Maria says they need to go, as it's only 30 minutes until Henry's event for the book starts. Also, here we discover that Rodriguez is actually Maria Fernando Rodriguez, and Henry looks very surprised, since he thought it was an old man. While riding to the event, Henry's phone keeps buzzing with notifications as he struggles to adapt to the newfound attention. Maria continues to laugh about Henry's mistaken assumption that her grandfather was the translator. She becomes so distracted that she nearly hits a man with her car. Upon arriving at the event, Henry shows the book, but he doesn't speak Spanish, so Maria agrees to help him translate. With many fans present, unlike in the previous reading, he takes the stage alongside Maria. The audience applauds enthusiastically as he answers the host's questions. After that, the host starts to cite some chapters from the book, and Maria briefly translates. Maria seems to be hiding something in her translation, causing agitation among the audience. She struggles to find the right words, and the audience steps in to help with the translation, leaving Henry puzzled about the phrasing. Maria is accused of lying by the audience when she attempts to conceal the true translation again. She feels embarrassed about her intimate translation of the book, and leaves the event. Henry follows Maria, angrily questioning her actions. She admits to making changes in the translation before leaving again, with Henry still in pursuit. Henry says that he didn't include any sex scenes within his book originally, and that Maria made his books like pornography. She, in return, says that the altered translation involved removing obscenities and lengthy descriptions. Maria seems to be confident that her editing made the book successful. Meanwhile, Pedro, Henry's Mexican publisher, joins their conversation and says he arranged an invitation to the TV show for Henry. While writing, Henry asks why Maria made one of the characters gay. Maria says that she added it to spice things up, also letting Henry know that she added one more character that wasn't originally in, and says that book was really boring initially, so she had to rewrite it completely. Henry loses it and shouts to stop the car, trying to find signal while arguing with Maria, so he calls a taxi, but there is no service. Henry once again says that he's against the sexualization of his book. Pedro joins them and says that they need to reconcile if they want the book to succeed. In Mexico City, Pedro and Henry are looking at the large banner on the building dedicated to the book, and Henry looks disgruntled again because of its intimacy. While Henry and Maria are in the makeup room, Beatriz, the host of the show, joins them and says she loves Henry's book, and is looking forward to receiving his autograph. Henry nervously laughs as Beatrice leaves, and Maria sarcastically says he can give her not only an autograph, but a phone number as well. Beatrice questions Henry about his favorite telenovela, and this question puzzles him. He tries to play it cool and starts to describe common characters for telenovelas. Lucky for him, Beatrice says he just described the Usurper novel, and Henry laughs nervously. There is an awkward silence until Maria disingenuously compliments Henry, and Henry timidly says they are a good team. After the show, they have an autograph session. Fans come in saying that the book changed their lives. However, Maria doesn't translate it, and just makes up phrases to offend Henry. One of the fans asks for a signature on her. Henry is sleeping in his hotel room, but suddenly receives a call on his tablet from his English publisher Jen. Jen is happy to say that his book, The Sensible Heart, is being re-released in the UK. Henry is happy about that and says that it is great news. However, after Jen shows him the new jacket of the book, which includes a woman, Henry is disappointed, because the re-released version is going to be the Mexican one that Maria wrote. After this news, Henry decides he needs a drink and goes down to the bar. Maria is sitting in the same bar. Henry asks what Maria is writing, but she ironically says that she's describing characters for the novel, and he should try to do this too. Henry joins her table, but before he has a chance to order something, Maria spots Antonio at the next table. They have a little fight, as Maria asks why he isn't on his recording session in San Miguel, but he says it's already done, and they are celebrating. Maria goes back to Henry to get her stuff and swiftly leaves. They are going to Palenque now, the last event for Henry. Palenque is 10 hours away. Henry is really surprised it will take so long to get there. While they are riding, Henry says it's cold, and he thought Mexico would be hot. Maria is offended, and starts snapping at him for being racist. Max gives Henry a blanket, but Henry notices it's smelly. Max clarifies that it once belonged to his dog Alicia. When they are riding through the forest, the car breaks up. Maria enviously rants that Harry has an easy life, while changing the tire. Henry says that Maria in fact is a translator, and life shouldn't be that hard for her either. Maria says she works at a bar as a side job to feed her family. She wants to write a novel. Henry looks kind of ashamed after hearing that. Maria starts to complain about love, and almost cries when she clarifies that love is when you are being lied to. Diego has been eavesdropping, and runs away as he thinks Maria doesn't love him. Henry finds him under the tree and Henry tells Diego about his younger years. However, after he finishes, Diego remarks that he doesn't understand English, and Henry is feeling dumb about himself. He then remembers he has a Spanish textbook, and really struggles to say that Maria loves him in Spanish, as it's hard to find the right word. Diego is laughing now, because Henry's Spanish is terrible. When they come back, Maria apologizes to Diego and they continue their trip to Palenque. On this trip, we start to see that Maria and Henry begin to get closer. After they reach Palenque, a group of fans surrounds their car, asking for Henry's autograph. The following evening, Henry is fascinated by the look of his scene for today's show, as it's right to an ancient Mayan temple. Meanwhile, Antonio sits in a bar somewhere and hears a familiar name on TV, Maria Rodriguez. On the late-night show, Maria and Henry start to argue about the true meaning of love. Henry still defends his position that love is more than passion. However, Maria seems to be desperate and doesn't believe in true love. After the show is done, we see that some fans brought their fanfiction based on Henry's book. Henry once again needs to pretend that he encourages passion in literature. At the same time, Antonio is checking Henry's social media, and we start to see that he's jealous because of Maria. Henry joins Maria at a bar, and when he joins her, she suggests that he's following her and flirting with her. However, Henry is shy, and says he just wants to celebrate his last day in Mexico. They are strolling within hotel jungles, and Henry gets scared because of eerie sounds. Maria laughs and explains that those are just monkeys. We see them drinking again, and Henry starts to question Maria about Antonio. After that, Henry says that he doesn't have much experience with women because of his past. His mother passed when he was young, and he never spent much time with his father either. Laughing, they wish goodnight to each other, and Henry looks really puzzled. He doesn't know where to take things from here. The next morning, they all take a photo to memorize this moment. Diego is really sad to see Henry going away, but Maria, on the other hand, grapples with her own emotions as she struggles to bid Henry a proper farewell. The following evening, Maria tirelessly is working at the bar again, and Antonio orders cocktails for both of them. Antonio starts to ask questions about Henry. He sees that Maria is upset, and professes that she can always trust him and ask him for help. Maria shares that the past days were almost a dream life for her, but now, it's ended. Antonio tries to comfort her as she almost cries, and suggests they find a more quiet and fun place to go, as the bar looks kind of depressing. Meanwhile, Henry is sitting alone in a restaurant, looking tired. He receives another call on his tablet from his English publisher Jen, who asks him to write a new novel in 10 weeks. Henry is puzzled because of the strict deadline. However, Jen suggests that he seeks help from Maria, who actually rewrote his book and helped it to succeed. Henry is really confused, as we see he is still disgruntled about the fact that Maria stole his book and added vulgarity and sex into it. However, on the other side, he really wants to spend some more time with her. The next morning, Antonio wakes up first at Maria's house. While she's still sleeping, he sneaks in and takes photos with her. Pedro, the Mexican publisher, calls Maria and persuades her to help Henry with the new book. Henry and Maria meet at Pedro's house and Henry proudly demonstrates his Spanish skills. They rearrange the house a bit to create a workspace for the two of them. The next day, when Maria comes to Pedro's house, she sees that Henry has already started the work, and she's dissatisfied with this fact, as she agreed on a collaboration only. Once they sit down, Henry starts to share his ideas with Maria, but she seems to decline everything. We see them working closely and relentlessly for a couple of days, and feel the atmosphere changing to be more friendly between Maria and Henry. They argue what the plot for the new novel should be, and again defend their previous positions. Henry still is against detailed scenes of intercourse in his books. Pedro encourages them to keep working, and he's now dressed in an ancient Roman costume. He's going to the carnival. Maria really wants to go too, however Henry insists that they keep on working. They are really tired in the late evening, but Maria still takes Henry to the city for the carnival. They meet Antonio with his friends, and Antonio tries to offend Henry by misspelling his name. Their conversation is broken by people that go by and take Henry with them, so Maria has to keep up. Henry and Maria are dancing on a street, with people dressed in carnival costumes and colorful wigs. After the party, they are both sitting on a step, and Henry shares that he enjoyed spending time with Maria. They finally come to an agreement. Henry agrees that passion is about love, and Maria says that their characters deserve more than passion, because passion fades. They eventually kiss and go back home together to make love while Pedro is away. The next day, after the night of love and joy, they are lying close to each other and looking lovingly at one another. Maria half-heartedly says that she needs to go and get Diego ready for school. However, turns back and kisses Henry goodbye one more time. Henry is lying on the bed looking kind of puzzled, as many things happened that night between him and Maria, and he didn't expect it. After Maria leaves, Henry continues to write vigorously. Pedro mentions that Maria won't like Henry writing alone. However, Henry says he has some ideas and needs to put them on paper. While he is writing, Antonio sends him a message on social media, and Henry opens it nervously after their last meeting the previous evening. When Maria comes, Henry is sitting beside the table and looks really sad. Maria comes to the desk to see the latest version of their novel and sees that Henry has already finished it. Maria asks why he didn't wait for her, and Henry shows a photo he received from Antonio. The same photo Antonio took a couple of days ago, when he spent the night with Maria at her home. Maria looks confused and is really angry at Antonio for sending it, and Henry for not trusting her. Maria is disappointed in Henry's mistrust, so she says that if he can't trust her, she can't trust him either, and leaves without saying goodbye. Henry chases her outside the house, though Maria just wants to be left alone. She's almost crying, but still stays and explains to Henry the whole situation. She was working hard at the bar, but one day Pedro offered her to make a translation of Henry's book, and she took it because she wanted to make it better. Henry changed Maria's life, and she was happy with that. She thought they were a team. Henry calms her down, saying that he does trust her and they are a team, and he regrets showing that photo to her. Nevertheless, Maria is deeply offended by the fact he finished the novel without her, so she leaves once again. Following the rainy evening, Henry is sitting alone at his home back in London, regretting his decision to finish the book without Maria. He looks very upset about the situation, and doesn't know what to do next. Meanwhile, Maria works at the bar when Antonio comes in with a bouquet of flowers. Henry and Maria are trying to get along with their lives now without each one on their side, but they are thinking about one another every minute. Henry is going through old photos with Maria late at night, reminiscing upon the intricate tapestry of events that once transpired between these two souls. He calls Jen, and she comes the next morning to congratulate him on the publication of his new book, and hands him tickets to Mexico. Diego runs into the bar where Maria's working and takes her outside to show the banner on the glass next door. It is a banner dedicated to Henry's and Maria's books, as Henry finally decided to mention that she is a co-author. Maria is happy but still can't believe it, so she stays there for a moment, as she's pleasantly shocked. This evening, Henry performs at the event dedicated to the publishing of his new book in Mexico. Pedro hands him notes for his speech, but it's in Spanish, and Henry's Spanish is still poor. He looks embarrassed as the text contains jokes about Englishmen and their looks. However, the audience is applauding enthusiastically. As Henry answers questions from the host about his new book, two hearts, Maria, Diego, and Max join as spectators. The host asks Henry why he mentioned Maria as a co-author, and Henry says she didn't help him write the book. She is, in fact, the second heart. Without her, he couldn't have written this book, and she not only translated his previous book, The Sensible Heart, she rewrote it. Henry is really stressed as he notices Maria sitting in front of him, and he says that she didn't only rewrite the book, she rewrote him. The audience gasps as Henry confesses his love to Maria. The host is confused, because no one but Henry knows that Maria is there, and Henry asks Maria to stand up and show herself. Henry apologizes to her, and says that she loves Maria, and he was an idiot. However, their sweet moment is interrupted by Antonio, who climbs up into a hall and starts accusing Maria and Henry of lies. Antonio says that he is her husband, and that Henry stole his wife. Antonio starts an altercation, aggressively running up to the stage to beat up Henry. Henry tries to evade the fight, running from Antonio, and throws a book at Antonio's head. He falls for a second and security catch him and show him out. Overwhelmed with concern, Maria dashes onto the stage, her eyes searching for Henry as her heart races with worry. Upon finding him, she breathes a sigh of relief and asks, her voice trembling with emotion, if he is all right. Standing face to face, their eyes locked in a tender gaze, Maria's vulnerability shines through, as she makes a heartfelt request for Henry to translate one final phrase for her. With a gentle smile, Maria utters the words, I love you, in Spanish. As he starts to understand the meaning of the phrase, Henry smiles and says it is an easy one. He translates the words, his voice barely more than a whisper. Their eyes glisten with unshed tears as they slowly lean in, their lips meeting in a soft, tender kiss that encapsulates the culmination of their love story. In the end, we see the passage of time and the realization of Maria's dreams. She has finally become the writer she always yearned to be, and her passion and dedication are reflected in her work. United by their shared love for words and for each other, Maria and Henry find they live happily ever after in marriage.